right. Well, good afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining us today for our second episode of VWLG. That stands for Virginia Women Leading Government, our Spotlight series, where we highlight phenomenal women who are leading the way, leading the charge in local government. So today we are joined by Valmarie Turner, who she is the Assistant County Administrator in Loudoun County. So we're welcoming her today, and we're going to start off with some wonderful questions to get to know her life story, her journey towards where she is today. So I'm so honored to have you today, Valmarie. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, Tiffany, thank you so much. I'm excited about being here.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's just dive in and just start us off with telling us a little bit about what led you, tell us more about your position,
Okay.
but also what led you into your career decision to go into local government.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start off. It's a funny story. So my journey was a little different. So when I graduated college, I graduated right in the middle of a recession. It's during Operation Desert Storm. I don't know if you all remember that or not, but so I was a recent graduate and I was working in a mortgage company. And I was looking for my real job.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good job, but I was looking for my real job. And I saw this position with a city government, and they were seeking a loan closer. And that was similar to what I was doing at the mortgage company. I was a loan reviewer. And I looked at the job descriptions. They were so similar. I said, okay, I didn't really understand how a city government can have that position, but I said, okay, I'll try it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I interviewed for the position and I got the position. And man, when I got there, I started finding out about all these different grants that cities and counties across the nation receive and what they can do with them. And in this particular city government, they provided first mortgages, they provided down payment assistance, closing cost assistance, they provided, rehab. So they were actually making loans.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but what that did for me was open me up to the world of local government from the standpoint of really understanding local government.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a number of different grants in that particular city government. And it allowed me, with the different grants that we had, it allowed me to be able to kind of glean and peek into finance and budget, building and development, even the fire department. Because there's so much that you can do. We could buy fire trucks. We can create, just all different kind of things. Yeah. And I was able to learn about local government from the grants perspective.
Uh-huh.
And because of that, and because of all the different departments that we work with, planning and zoning, social services, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
It led me actually to the position that I'm in today, which is Assistant County Administrator. And I initially started off with Loudoun County government as the Assistant County Administrator for Human Services, which consists of all of our social services and housing as well. And I've now transitioned over to the community development agencies, which includes planning and zoning, building and development, economic development, and housing.
Wow.
But all of those departments, I was able to work with in some way because of the grant funds.
Isn't that interesting?
It is very interesting. So yeah. So that's how I got into local government, and I've been here ever since. I never left.
Yeah.
Local government.
Well, that's such a wow. That's just, you've been able to touch so many departments. So tell us, what do you like the most about your role?
I think what I like most about it is, so I love local government as opposed to state and federal. Don't have anything against them.
Yeah.
But when you work local government, you get to tangibly touch, see, and feel those that you impact on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that is what was rewarding about it. So it's been rewarding for me both professionally and personally, because it's allowed me to really make an impact in every area that I've ever worked in.
Yeah.
That's what I love most about it.
Yeah, to have that connection to the people. Just right there.
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. Wow, that's really good.
Individually and collectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so take us back to before you got into this really cool position and been able to just kind of maneuver through local government. Tell us a little bit about, where did you go to school?
So I'm a graduate of the
V.
Florida A&M University.
Get it right.
Get it right. We affectionately call it FAMU, and also Walden University. But my heart, of course, is the Florida A&M University.
I love it. I love that. That's right. That's right. And so, well, what do you think it was in college? What do you think you learned about your experience at the,
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
At the, what did you learn in college that you are just still able to use today, like even apply in your position now? Yeah.
So, one thing that I learned was wherever we go, when we left school, wherever we go, we're to make an impact, a rattler impact. So essentially what we were taught at FAMU is that we needed to be the change that we wanted to see. And, they're real big about giving back to the community and reaching back to assisting others. And so that kind of folded into my upbringing as well. So it was like a perfect match for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like there, like in school, once you all have been taught the importance of making an impact, do you feel like you were starting at that time to make an impact, and it has just kind of carried over to make sure that this is this critical part of what the work that I do, that I have to have this impact?
Well, absolutely. And let me tell you why. So when I grew up, I'm the youngest of 8. When I grew up, my parents were always one that they would give back. So I grew up and I didn't know any other way. So my mom would take care of like the older adults that were in our neighborhood. That was back when we knew every neighbor. Like I knew every single person on our street. They knew me. God forbid if I did something down the street, because before I got home, my parents knew about it.
That's not like where I grew up, but go ahead.
Exactly, right? And so what it did for me was it instilled values in me where I'm always want to help someone else. I always want to see that other person succeed.
That's right.
And that carried on with me when I went to the Florida University.
Okay. That's right. Hello. All right. Yeah. That's awesome. And then the last part of that is just today, do you feel like you incorporate that value in what you do? You making sure that that you have that impact, and maybe it's even just internally within your department or in the work that you all do.
Absolutely. And not just me, but those that I work with. Because I'm really big on ensuring that we are collaborating and partnering with the county, with the actual constituency and the residents of the county, because everything that we do impact them. So I need them at the table with us, right? So I'm always looking at how can I partner, how can I collaborate, because I want to hear all voices at the table. I don't want to unilaterally make a decision without hearing from those that are going to be impacted the most.
That's so important, and I'm so glad that you walk in that space to make sure that that it's just inclusion there, right? That everybody has a chance to say, and that helps inform your decision. That's awesome. Well, absolutely. Yeah. So, who do you feel like who's been the strongest influences in your life?
Without a doubt, my mom. Okay. And what's actually ironic about that is my mom passed when I was 25.
Okay.
And it was tough, and it's still tough. I mean, it's something you get through but never get over, right?
Yeah.
And so, I was like, God, why? Why did that have to happen? And I didn't feel like I got enough from her, to be able to survive. But I can tell you that the things that she instilled in me, and everything that I've ever gone through, good or bad, I've been able to hear her voice.
Yeah.
And so she has led and guided me through so much. So first and foremost is my mom. But another influence have been my sisters. Okay. So they I'm the youngest.
Of 8, right?
Of 8. Yeah. But I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers. So my sisters stepped in that role. And there is nothing that any of them would not do for me. Just the sheer guidance that they have given me and the support. Yeah. I everything that I am, outside of God, of course. Yeah. They have helped me to achieve. Absolutely.
And I take it you all are
Yeah.
still very close.
Yes, my entire family will be here in June for a mini reunion with me.
Oh,
And I'm the only one that lives out of Florida.
oh my goodness. I know you can't wait.
I can't wait.
Like, yes.
Cannot wait.
Yeah, to see your family. Oh, that's so special. And I'm so glad you have that I don't know, that source of strength there with your family, with your sisters, and what you all
And
have.
my brothers too. I don't want to leave them out, absolutely. Yeah. But it's definitely been my family.
Yeah. Definitely. Wow. So with that said, what do you think? What would be 3 words? Let's start with your sisters and your family, and then we'll talk about your friends. What are 3 words you think your family would use to describe you?
Okay. The first one will probably be bossy.
Okay, bossy.
I am the youngest, but I tend to have the last word. That's how I got all of them to come up here, right? So the first one will be bossy, but I'm also the connector. So I'm always looking for ways to ensure that I keep us together. I'm the one during the pandemic, I established the Zoom call so we can talk all the time. And last but not least, that I am extremely giving and kind. Because I love my family and they love me. And, it's about, okay, what we need.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I think those are 3.
I saw somewhere, it's some quote someone had that is like, I'm not bossy, it's just leadership.
I like that. Exactly.
I saw that somewhere on Instagram and I was like, that's good.
I'm going to have to take that one. Let me write that one down.
Right.
Yes.
I'm not bossy, it's just leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah. 100%.
Do you think your friends and any other acquaintances would add on to those, or do you feel like that's what they would say as well?
So let me tell you what I did. I actually asked a few of them because I have, I've been blessed. I have a good family, close family, but also good friends. And so I asked a few of them and I wrote down what they said. So I'm going to read it. And I was so humbled.
Yeah.
One said courageous, intelligent, and spiritual. One said loyal, trustworthy, and kind. One said astute, decisive, and inquisitive. Okay. And then one said this: you lead with strength, compassion, and dignity, all while encouraging women to live up to their full potential. You have a servant's heart. I'm so humbled.
Yeah.
Because you don't necessarily ask people, but I said, well, I wanted to know. So I sent it to them and said, well, if you had to describe me in 3 words, what would you say? And I was floored. Like I said, I've been extremely blessed. I have very good friends.
Yes.
And thankful.
Well, that's something in and of itself for you to ask. Because I think sometimes people are afraid to ask, like, how do I come across? How do you perceive me?
Yeah,
and, But I'm glad you did so that you now know, wow, those are some really beautiful traits that they said about you. Yeah.
And when I tell you I'm humbled, I am.
Yeah.
I have been very, very blessed.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, Valmarie, tell us, what do you think you are the most proud of accomplishing so far in your life?
So I tend to kind of compartmentalize my life. So I would say without a shadow of a doubt, it would be my daughter. Okay. Just the sheer fact that God chose me to be her mom. I absolutely love that kid. Even though she's not a kid, she's 23, but she's still my baby.
Okay, that's right.
But professionally, when I thought about all the different things that I've been able to do, I can't help but just be thankful to God. So I'm a woman of faith, and just to be thankful. And so I thought about, when I talked about individually and collectively. So in some of the different programs that we administer, a lot of it is we've been able to tear down houses and rebuild them, particularly for our older adults. They have maintained the house as best they could. They've paid it off. And because of their income, they can't afford to go anywhere else.
Right.
But they have a house that is completely paid off. They just don't have enough money for the upkeep.
Mm-hmm.
And they apply through these different programs that a lot of city and county governments have.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, we were able to tear down a house and rebuild it. And it's two individuals in particular that I think of. Both of them were older adults, and both of them are actually older men. And the first time I met the first gentleman, and I walked into his house, and he had to tell me where I could step so I didn't fall through.
Isn't that something? Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So such a humble man.
Yeah.
And so to see the look on his face when he saw his house, because not only did we tear down his house and rebuild it,
Mm-hmm.
but we temporarily relocated him, and we had like this apartment that we worked with. So he stayed in there for about 3 or 4 months. Can't remember how long it was. And then we moved him back, and he literally cried. So that was one.
Wow.
And I think when I say my biggest accomplishment, because that's what I go to work for.
Yeah.
That's what I go to work for.
Yeah.
So the other gentleman, when I heard his story, I knew I had to go out and meet him because I was somewhat in disbelief that currently that we have people that are living in the United States that have never had running water or any plumbing in their homes. Like,
I can't even conceive of that, right? Most of us couldn't. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Mm-hmm.
No, but that's where I was.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that I'd seen a lot, had come across a lot, but I knew that we had to do whatever we could, and there was a lot of hurdles. And what I loved, what I say about that particular instance is, it was a team of departments that worked so that we can move him out. We put a trailer. He had enough property where we put a trailer on his property, fully furnished trailer. So he has running water, lights, heat, you name it, he has it. But we're going to be working with a nonprofit to rebuild it.
Wow.
You know, so
yeah,
this is what local government is about. This is the missing piece that a lot of people don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't even know that local governments, have this ability. And it's not like we have a whole lot of money, and so oftentimes we have more requests than we have money, which is something that I wish wasn't the case. But in both of these incidents, both internally, the departments that work together collectively, like we're gonna do whatever we need to do to try to help and try to make this work. Of course, in the confines of our rules and regulations, but we worked so closely together. I mean, it was at least maybe 6 or 7 different departments that were working, came together on almost a weekly basis to work through the issues so we can make this happen. And so not only did we benefit the end user, which was, this older gentleman who had worked all his life.
Yeah.
And he was living in a property that was what he can afford. It wasn't, I mean, he owned it, right? So
yeah,
those are two things that I can really think of, because that is why I come to work.
Mm-hmm.
There are a whole lot of things that have been, transpired over my career.
Yeah.
That's most impactful. Those types of things have been most impactful.
Wow. And I mean, I'm just, you talk about being humbled. When you hear stories like that, and you were there and you just engaged, you and the rest of the agencies were engaged. But as I'm listening, I mean, I can't imagine how many more men and women and families are like that, where they're just surviving and just making do. But then here you come along, there are programs that help him rebuild his home, right? That make homes safer and, more comfortable. So
Local
thank you for what y'all do. I just want to say
local governments make a difference.
That's right.
Local governments make a difference. We absolutely make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have appreciation, and I come from local government. So I'm like, yes. Local government works. So I thank you so much for what you do. And so as you are making this impact, whether it's individually, collectively, just in your journey, what do you feel like is your quote or it could be even a scripture, because I know you're a woman of faith.
Yeah.
What is your go-to quote or saying or scripture that brings you that joy, that gives you the strength to keep going and doing what you do?
It's two.
Yeah.
Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the golden rule, doing to others as you have them doing to you. That's how I try to live my life. Because I believe that when one succeeds, we all succeed. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I can make sure that whatever I do, that I'm reaching back, I'm assisting someone else, that's what we're called to do.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about community, that's the essence of true community.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a matter of just, oh, this is my piece of the pie.
That's right.
And I'm going to keep my piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Or it's not even that in order for you to succeed, that I have to give up my piece of pie.
That's
right.
right.
A lot of people have that misnomer that if in order for you to succeed, I have to give up something. And that's absolutely not the case, because when you succeed, I succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So think about this. So we think about our education system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that there's some disparities there. But
absolutely.
If we do as much in maybe an impoverished area that we do in an affluent area relative to the education system,
Absolutely.
Guess what happens? All the kids are educated the same.
Mm-hmm.
And they all, we can level out the playing field.
That's right.
And you're not taking anything for that kid to be educated. It's not taken away from this kid being educated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's my personal opinion. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate that so much, because I was just actually thinking about that too. I'm like, how do you share this mentality with other leaders to say, hey, this is a community-driven approach. When people say it, I think people say things and it sounds good, but it's like, no.
Yeah.
How do you live this? And really, focus on how do we level the playing for everybody? How can everybody be able to eat, sleep, play, go to school, and thrive, So.
Yeah, so we'll say it loud, and we have been doing a lot of work on equity. In fact, we are preparing to interview for our chief equity officer position. That's our first ever chief equity officer position.
Yes, Loudoun County.
Yes, we are so excited about that. County leadership, our county administrator, as well as board leadership, have been very, very supportive and actually funded the position, as well as creating the Office of Equity and Inclusion.
Yeah.
And those are the type of vehicles that we need when we talk about leveling the playing field, or looking at institutional things and systems that have been put in place that disproportionately impact specific populations and cultures.
Absolutely.
And so we just have to take a hard look at it and agree to make some changes. And that's what I'm hopeful that we'll do as we continue on this journey of equity and inclusion.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to watching
I'm excited.
Loudoun County and your new
really excited.
position. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's
very,
awesome.
Very excited about that.
So Valmarie, so when you are not working and helping, people to have better housing opportunities or whatever their opportunities are, right? So when you get to go home and just be, is what I call it. Sometimes you just go and be. What would you say are some of the things that you do to relax? What are some of your hobbies? How do you keep yourself balanced? Yeah.
So I absolutely love to journal. So journaling for me is, I use journaling to just kind of talk through some things in my head on paper. I use journaling as, a prayer method. I'll write out my prayers when I'm praying. But I also use journaling as, to envision things for the future that I want. So I also have a vision board. But I love, writing out my dreams and what I'm believing for and what I want to kind of accomplish. So I do a lot of that. And also singing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm not a Patti LaBelle, but I can hold a note.
Listen, because I was going to say, you want to give us a little song. I'm teasing.
But that has always been my go-to in terms of It's just something, particularly, and most of everything that I sing is gospel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So gospel or worship music. So
Mm-hmm.
typically those are my go-to, and it just changes. Like I don't care what I'm going through. Sometimes I just start humming. It helps me. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's always kind of been my go-to is singing. And believe it or not, even on outside of work, I love working in different types of group. And I think I mentioned that outside of work, I'm in the National Coalition of 100 Black Women.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
very
so,
familiar with them.
yeah,
That
so
organization. Yeah.
we do a lot. I do a lot with them, but also mentor too. So I have a mentee. I only have one right now that I'm working with. And so yeah, I'm always trying to give back. But that relaxes me.
Yeah. Now that's something in your relaxation as you journal and just
Yes,
kind of empty yourself, but at the same time you're like, wait,
yes,
I love to still pour into people and
I do.
and yeah, that's a beautiful thing about you. I'm
I
glad you
do.
shared that.
Thank you.
Now, are you a reader? I was gonna say, what are you currently
Yeah.
reading? Uh-huh.
So I do love to read, and I've also started with some audiobooks,
Uh-huh.
which have been good. But what I've found is unless I'm sitting or if I'm riding like for a minute in the car,
Yeah.
um, I prefer the actual paper book. I'm still one of those ones like I like
Listen,
reading.
I'm so with you on this. I need to write a note or two and I need
Yeah,
to
right.
turn.
Yes, yes, right. And I want to be able to pick it up and go right to that and not have to.
That's right.
So,
That's
but
right.
so I've been doing a lot of work around equity and inclusion.
Okay.
That's so professionally, I've been reading a lot of books on that. And right now, I just started,
Mm-hmm.
and it's heavy, The Color of Law. So I just started that book.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I also have Cast. I haven't started that yet.
You have to read it.
Oh, no, I haven't started it. Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
listen, I have heard about that book. I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
So,
It's a
um,
must read. Yes, ma'am.
okay. Well, The Color of Law as well, particularly if, being over planning and zoning, because
Uh-huh.
it talks about how zoning laws or yeah, yeah, that's a good one too. So
Let me make
yeah,
sure I add that on my reading list. Okay.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And but I love a lot of Christian based books. I'm always anything inspirational, uplifting. So
Yeah.
yeah, I read a lot. I read a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. And listen, thank you for that book suggestion. That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think, again, as you have just kind of come this far in your journey, looking back, what do you think, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Um, you know that I'm more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I realized that until much later in life that I'm resilient. You're resilient. You're more than enough. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Yeah.
And when I think about that, I think about there's some opportunities, something that I think about now that I wish I had. Just the nerves and the guts
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Opportunities that were presented to me, and because of fear for some reason, I
Yeah.
didn't step out. And I will say that when I had my daughter, I looked at things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely looked at things differently. Because it wasn't until after I had my daughter that I went back to get my master's,
Mm-hmm.
that I really start, thinking about the future, and what I wanted, for me and my daughter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So to have the 20-year-old self should know I am enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I
You're
think
more than enough.
that you're more than enough. I
More
just
than
think
enough.
about how much we have to um, battle so many internal struggles with
Yeah.
that same thing. Like, no, wait a minute, I am enough. And having to keep reminding yourself, listen, I'm gonna go ahead, full disclosure. I have this app that I just downloaded. It's an affirmations app, and it said, it's just a constant reminder of what you are. And it's like, wow. So
Yeah.
the question is like, at what point do you finally say, okay, wait, I am enough, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I do affirmations every single day.
Yeah.
And I really believe in the power of words.
Yeah.
I'm a woman of faith. I believe that life and death is in the power of the tongue.
That's what it says.
Very careful about what I speak over my life.
Yeah.
But I had to learn that.
Yeah.
Very, very careful about what I speak over my life.
That's so
deliberate. I'm deliberate about what I speak over my life too.
That's a good takeaway. That words have power, and being careful what you speak over your life and even over the lives of others.
And even over the lives of others, absolutely.
Right.
Because I don't want to use my mouth
to
hurt someone else.
That's good, Valmarie. I'm so glad you said that. So, what do you think would be a song or movie that would best describe you? As we kind of learn these pieces of you, we know that you are a woman of faith. You're like a stellar county administrator. You're like a mom extraordinaire. Okay, is there a song or movie that could adequately describe you?
So, for song, I would have to say, because I love worship music, I would say, "I Will Exalt Thee." I Will Exalt You by Hillsong.
Yes.
And probably why I would pick that song is, whatever mood that I'm in, good or bad, that song, along with most worship songs, always change the atmosphere for me. Like I said, I'm not a Patti LaBelle, but I can hold a note.
Okay, you can hold a tune.
I can hold a tune. But that song, regardless of everything that may be going on, I have to know, being a woman of faith, nothing is a surprise to God. So I have to know that He's made provisions for me somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I just need direction.
That's right.
If it's a tough time. So that helps me get through particularly tough times, but also when things are well, I want to exalt Him.
Yeah. Which is such an important thing, that, right, seeking direction in those dark times when we're like, what am I doing next? But also when it does come to fruition and all is well.
All is well.
To still, be in that. That's a good word.
That's good, Tiffany. That's good.
That's a good word. Yes.
That's a good word, Tiffany. Yes.
Yeah. But it's so serious, because I think about that too. And I identify as a woman of faith too. And I'm just like, wow, when it is well, how do I still have that? So tell us, a couple more things. So tell us, Valmarie, okay, well, let's just say, let me start off with like this. Have you ever taken on an assignment that, I guess, kind of like a stretch assignment that it just allowed you to learn and to grow? How did you get through that? And what were your takeaways from that?
Okay. So
and I guess we're thinking more so in a professional realm.
Yes. No, I know. Yeah. I will say, there have been a lot of opportunities for me. But I'm thinking about one in particular. This was right after the housing crisis, around 2007 or 8. I want to say it's around 2008. And Congress enacted the Housing and Economic Recovery Act of 2008. Yeah, it was 2008. And that act also created what's called the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. And I was a department director at the time of a housing department. And we received $19 million.
Wow.
That's a 1 and a 9.
A 1-9. 1-9.
Yes. And it's a grant. Neighborhood Stabilization Program was a grant. And if you've ever administered grants before, there are a lot of other loopholes, and there's a lot of tape and everything that kind of attaches onto that grant. And so you receive $19 million, you should be able to spend that money.
Yeah.
But there were so many different things that we had to have in place before we could spend it. Like, for instance, what it allowed us to do was to buy foreclosed properties, rehab them, and resell them. But in order for us not to trigger the Uniform Relocation Act, which was a part of NSP, or Neighborhood Stabilization Program, we had to ensure that property has been vacant for at least 90 days. If it hadn't been vacant for 90 days, that means that we would have to take the person, we have to relocate. I mean, it was a lot.
Yeah.
But that was just one aspect of the grant.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot for us to be able to acquire the house, to acquire land. I mean, there was a lot that we can do with the money to kind of reinvigorate our community. Mm-hmm. But we had a lot of hoops that we had to jump through. And so rather quickly, I had to put a team together because I still had all my other work to do. Mm-hmm. So we put a team together, which included hiring staff, hiring consultants, getting a buy-in from the county administration at that point, as well as the board, and putting a plan of action together. And we had to make sure that it was a seamless process. Mm-hmm. I want to say we probably purchased over 200 homes. I know we purchased 2 complete apartment complexes, and we also bought some land. And so, I mean, we did what we needed to do, but just coming into it, it was so daunting. When I looked at all, because they tell you have 19 million, then you wait for the regulations to come out. So then you get the regulation, you comb through them, you're like, oh my gosh, we have to do, Yeah. And then you see all the different steps that you have to take before you can even acquire one property. It was a little daunting, but I can tell you that, my team pulled together. We wrote out had its clear roadmap on what we needed to do, and we spent every dime. And we probably could have spent more if they'd given it to us.
Yeah.
And so what I learned from that is, how do you chew an elephant? Mm-hmm. One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
So I knew where I needed to get to. So I knew that on the front end, I had to create a process and have the right people and the right tools in place in order for me to get there. And I knew that I had to have a multi-pronged approach. I wasn't going to get there just buying single family properties, which were needed.
Yeah.
I know that there was some apartment complexes that had went completely under. How do we get a hold of them? This allowed us to do land. What kind of land can we? So I knew it had to be a multi-pronged approach for us to spend the 19 million in the short amount of time that we had to do it.
Yeah.
And so what I took from that was, when developing a plan, you have to have a really solid start, mm-hmm. and you have to have very, very clear direction and where you're going and where you need to end up.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You work through the things in the middle.
So that was the takeaways for you to make sure.
Huge takeaway for me.
Yes. So it sounds like however you start, it's got to be a solid start. Okay.
Well, solid starts help. Even if you don't have a solid start, you're going to have to be able to shift. And that's what we had to do as well. I mean, there are some things that we weren't so stuck in. We had to do it this way.
Yeah.
As much as we knew what we were going. We had a very good solid start, but there was, even during that time, we had to shift, and we had to be nimble enough to be able to do that.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like some flexibility, being able to adapt.
Flexibility and adaptability, they're different. And you absolutely need both.
Mm-hmm. Need both. Okay. That's good. That's really good. And that's amazing. You guys were able to acquire the homes and the property during that experience too. Yeah. Wow. So last but not least here, I'm just thinking, and I know we're just, as we kind of talked about the stretch assignment, and I'm sure you've learned so much more, and probably plenty of other assignments too that have stretched you and helped you to grow. But what do you think was a challenging time during your career? Mm-hmm. And what can you offer as steps to how you resolved it, and maybe what you can offer to others and how they can help overcome some challenges as well?
Okay. So the program that I just told you about, mm-hmm. So I've had the pleasure, and I call it the pleasure, of taking over or being asked to lead a couple, what some people have deemed troubled agencies.
Okay.
So obviously some mistakes were made, but I saw the people in those different departments, because it was a few of them that I've had the pleasure of leading. But I saw the people in the department as committed. Mm-hmm. I saw them as wanting to make a difference. And so it was challenging to be able to come into a department that had been beat up on because of
Mm-hmm.
some mistakes that had happened. And there were some people that were no longer with the organization that had been there for some time because of some of the things that had happened.
Yeah.
So in order to come in and do my best to build them up as individuals and
Mm-hmm.
as a unit was challenging, all while ensuring that we're still meeting the objectives and the goals that were established for the department.
Right.
And I've always believed in something my dad says is kind of is real country, but he says my dad used to say that it's a poor frog that doesn't praise his own pond. And so what
Like
I
that.
wanted to so what I end up doing was, because when you're in day to day, you don't really see the impact
Yeah.
until you get the data.
Yeah. That's
And
right.
so what I established every year, I would put together what I called an accomplishments report. And it started off as a report for staff. It was a way to show them the good that they were doing in the community and the impact that they were truly making.
Yeah.
And so I would work with our graphics department to make it pretty for them.
Yeah.
And so they really started getting into that, yeah, we are making a difference. Well, other people start seeing those reports and other people start calling on us more to do things. And, when we went from the department that nobody wanted to be in, we put a job out and we'd have so many applications, we didn't know what to do. And
Isn't
it
something?
was when you change the atmosphere
Yeah.
of and culture of a department. And I did that with most of the people that were still there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I when I tell you I love people, I do.
You love people.
And
Uh-huh.
so my goal has always been to get to know as many of my team as I possibly can,
Mm-hmm.
to get to know them from a standpoint of how they receive information, because we all receive it differently,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to communicate with them that way.
That's right.
Let them know that, I care about everybody. Now, I'm going to deal with you if we mess up. But my goal is always to see you succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it was very challenging because that's not something that happens overnight. Because
Right.
first of all,
Yeah.
they don't trust you coming in. You're a
That's
new
it.
person from the outside. They don't trust you going in. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're consistent and you do what you say you're going to do,
Mm-hmm.
they'll start trusting you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I have learned and what I carry with me always is consistency is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Meeting people where they are,
Mm-hmm.
and anything I can do to empower them to get there, that's exactly what I'll do.
Mm.
Because
That is.
somebody poured into me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had very good, solid mentors, and I still have mentors that pour
Mm-hmm.
into me now.
Mm-hmm.
I have to give that back.
Yeah. That is so powerful. And because I'm just imagining how you have to come into an environment like that with your cup full so that you can pour into them, because I can't
Absolutely.
imagine a department that people are like, oh, because that's also internalized too, to the probably some
Yeah.
of the employees that we are, okay. So how do you then establish trust and build and strengthen people that, your point, people like, look, we want to apply and we want to work there. So that says a lot about you and how you have to, how you fill yourself up and then constantly pour and build,
Thank you.
to where it is today. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But, I absolutely love people. And I always think about the end user too, because
Mm-hmm.
if we don't get it right, we
Yeah.
can lose millions of dollars that were given to the county or the city to impact neighborhoods and to impact lives. And so
That's
I
right.
always think about that in anything that we do. But I also know that we get work done through people.
That's right.
And if you don't establish those relationships with the people that we work with, and
Mm-hmm.
letting them know, yeah, they get a check, but I appreciate them. I appreciate the work that they do.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm sure they feel being appreciated, which goes so far. I like that.
I try.
Listen, even though your daddy said that was a quote unquote country saying, listen, that had a lot of power to it. Listen, because people need to be appreciated and seen, right? And acknowledged. So that's awesome.
That was a game changer for them actually seeing it. And when they start seeing the numbers that we were putting out, wow. It was data. It was data. Yeah, so
that's awesome. I am just so thankful to have this conversation with you today, Valmarie. I mean, what an inspiration you are. And I just thank you for your service.
No, thank you. Yes. Yeah. I tell everyone, I think I've said this earlier, I am so blessed to be in a position that's so rewarding, both professionally and personally.
Yeah.
Government, we do great things.
That's it. Look, that's a good way to end too. Like, listen, government, whatever people say, government can do great things and can really impact positively. Let's add that in.
Absolutely.
The lives of people. So, but anyways, well, listen, we've come to the end of our interview today, but I just want to say thank you again, Valmarie, for joining us for our VWLG Spotlight. And we encourage everyone else who's listening to tune in to our next series. But please, we just want to honor this amazing woman for all her work she does in Loudoun County.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Take care.